I'm a big believer in incremental exercise, just getting in short bits of movement and strengthening and combining that with walks in nature, getting out and about as much as you can. So I'm just going to take you through 10-15 minutes of strengthening, making sure that you always lengthen muscles as well. Super important. So I'm just going to start with some sun salutations to warm up the body. Feet just a bit wider than hip width apart, softening knees and spreading toes. You want to have nice wide feet, stacking the head on top of the neck, and then deep full breaths in as take the arms up and down, breathing underneath the armpits into those intercostal muscles between the ribs, and really pushing the floor away to come up to get the back line of the body active into the glutes, pushing the floor away, coming down a bit deeper. Breathing in and out. This time pausing, hands just above knees and coming into a tabletop, chin drawing in, base of the rib cage drawing back in towards the spine, sitting bones lifted and spread, and then exhaling down, just shaking the head for a moment, inhaling to come up, shoulders away from ears, back is active, exhaling down, inhaling up, pause for a moment, pushing down and slightly out with the feet, inner arch is nice and active, lifting, bit of a hamstring stretch here, rub the back of the legs, exhaling down, whew. Inhaling back up, this time shoulders away from ears, hands out to the side, palms forward, little circles backwards to activate muscles between the shoulders, keep the chin tucked in, crown lengthening forward, base of the rib cage in here, good, beautiful, release the shoulders, hands interlaced behind you, around the sacrum, and then lifting the hands up towards the ceiling, whole shoulder girdle up towards the ceiling. And you're kind of lengthening right up and over. Deep full breaths in, sighing the breath out. If this doesn't work for your shoulders, hands on hips, elbows up instead. Bend the knees as much as you need to. Beautiful. Hands wide, planted down on the ground, quite buoyant through the wrists, walking yourself back into downward facing dog. So imagine your tail is being lifted up towards the intersection of the wall and the ceiling. Roll shoulders away from ears. So spread those shoulders apart now, lengthening the spine and then pressing the heels down one at a time, getting into the ankles, the Achilles, the calf muscles. Drop the knees across the midline of the body, get into the hips. Sighing the breath out here. Emptying the lungs of the breath so you've got more space right at the bottom of the lungs to pull in fresh oxygen, breathing deeply. Good, down on hands and knees, lifting the tail and then tucking the tail, a few cat and cow rounds, breathing in and breathing out. Such a nice way to tone the pelvic floor, massage into the spine, release tension around the pelvis, lifting the tail and then swirling the tail behind you, getting into that hip area, shoulders nice and loose. One direction, other direction now, swirling the pelvis around. Lovely. And I always drape the hips, so knees together, drop the hips to one side, getting into that IT band. Really nice to get a little bit of hip action. We want to be strong through the arms here, so a little bend through the elbows, working into the biceps. Yes, pressure through the wrists, because we need to strengthen wrists, absolutely. But if you lock the elbows, you're going to put undue pressure through the wrists, so don't do that. Up and over to the other side now. You can see my arm is a little bit bent here, so I'm using the upper body, using my arm muscles. And then a big swirling movement, taking the whole pelvis around the clock face. And anti-clockwise, and then clockwise. Beautiful. And I'm just going to drop down onto the ground here, elbows in, shoulders away from ears, tops of the feet on the ground, inhaling, so we activate the back muscles, breathing in deeply, hardly any pressure through the hands, tops of the feet pressing into the ground, knees a little bit buoyant, they're kind of sucking up off the ground, but I'm not squeezing my bum. Bum muscles stay relatively relaxed, breathing in deeply. Exhaling down, pause here, squeeze one glute and then the other glute. So squeezing bum muscles to get feet to lift up. Tummy button comes up off the ground to protect the lower back. Good, if that feels all right, taking feet off the ground completely, glutes active. Make sure they are working well together. Both are about the same. You don't want to have one side a lot more active than the other. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. So I'm going to add in, first of all, arms back, and then lifting the chest a little bit, lifting little fingers up towards the ceiling, chin drawn in, so crown of the head rocketing forward. If that feels okay, maybe even making it a little bit harder, pretend you are holding onto one of those kickboards in the water. Breathing, whoo. Long, smooth breath. Good, dropping down, just going to open the quads, so grabbing hold of an ankle, shoulders rolled back, pressing the pelvis into your mat, breathing out, just rainbowing the ankle from side to side, so we get that stretch going right across the quadricep, front of the thigh, right into those hip flexors. Long, full, slow breath out. Good, other side. Roll that left shoulder back, grab hold of the ankle, pressing the pubic bone down. Fabulous. And then toes in, heels out, just rock the hips from side to side, just kind of release right over that sacrum area. Good, you're going to switch on glutes, switch on pelvic floor, deep core muscles. So starting off literally just with knees bent, heels directly underneath knees, and in that neutral spine. So if you put your middle fingers on top of your hip joints, here, hip bones, and then thumbs onto the base of the rib cage, they should be in alignment. As you exhale, drawing in through the pelvic floor muscles, so it feels like you're stopping yourself weeing and passing wind at the same time. Yeah, so they draw in, activate, and then you keep breathing out with a puffy breath out like you're blowing out a candle, drawing right up through the vagina, through the cervix, towards your tummy button, and then feel your waist muscles drawing in towards your spine, and then release it all, so pelvic floor releases, belly releases. So you're breathing out, zipping up as if you're wearing tight high-waisted jeans, and then releasing out. So externally you don't really see much, but internally there's a lot going on. All those deep core muscles drawing in and upwards, and then releasing down and out, drawing in and upwards on the exhale, breathing out, and then releasing on the inhale. Good, so I'm going to add in a bit of glute work with the breath. So breathing out, pushing the floor away, rolling up, and then rolling down. Exhaling up, inhaling down, pushing up, coming down. So not all the way up into bridge, just halfway up so that we come into a diagonal line and glutes are active, and then down. A little bit pacier. So we're getting into gluteus maximus. So either staying with this or making it a little bit harder, heel toe feet together, staying up, all the weight is through one heel. I'm looking at my left heel, right knee coming up, tapping toes onto the ground, exhaling on the effort. Just going to stick that foot up towards the ceiling, massage the ankle,
Keep pressing down through that left heel. And then push the heel away from you, right heel away from you, toes towards you, pressing upwards, getting into the hamstring here. Shoulders nice and relaxed though. And then slowly coming down. Now either slowly come down, give yourself a rest, or coming straight onto the right side, pressing through that right heel, exhaling to bring the knee up, breathing out, breathing out. You want to exhale on the effort. Core switched on. Back muscles, part of your core, switched on. Pelvic floor zipping up with each exhalation. Pressing that heel away from you. Massaging the ankle. Keep breathing. Come down if you start to feel it in your back. Press the heel away, get that hamstring stretch. Oh, good for stability. And then down. And then slowly coming down. One vertebra at a time. Massaging, massaging, massaging down. Letting the back settle just for a moment so we can feel those muscles that support your spine just kind of melting into the ground. Let's just drop knees out as well, getting those hip flexors to release. I bring my knees up actually, big circles. So this helps the rotator muscles around the hip joints. It's also just really important to get these hip joints to be nice and mobile. Nice circles in one direction and then the other direction. And I do this daily. Press the heels up towards the ceiling, toes towards you, rub the back of your legs. So just keep these hamstrings nice and happy, and then turn the toes out, heels together, outside of your legs. It's quite a nervy stretch. It's a bit more core, shall we? So take your legs apart, press up through the heels. Just give the inner thighs a bit of a massage, wake them up. And then you can do this either with your legs straight or your knees bent, like so. Hands on the outside. As you exhale, we do that drawing up from pelvic floor, zipping up high-waisted jeans, and knees float together. And then out. And out. So this is the other version. A little bit easier without the extra weight of your legs. And so what we're trying to do is get your deep core muscles, pelvic floor is the beginning of your deep core, to activate before, a fraction of a second before those inner thigh muscles, the adductors. So we don't find that we get over dominant with the adductors and they take over and our pelvic floor muscles maybe don't work as well as they could. If they're too tight here, too triggered, pelvic floor muscles tend to be tight as well. So retraining that neural pathway, pelvic floor, deep core muscles first, and then a fraction of a second later, inner thigh muscles working. And one more here. I'm just going to, the same thing, zipping up, feet in this direction, tabletop. Make sure that you're not arching your back like that. There's not a big gap here, but you're not completely imprinting either. There's just a little natural curve through your lower back. And then toe taps, exhaling up, exhaling up, exhaling up. And we're zipping upwards. This is for your lower belly. You can always graduate to double toe tap. It's a lot harder. You need to make sure, especially if you've got prolapse, that you are absolutely zipping up through pelvic floor, lifting up before you add any extra weight. Knees in, circling for the lower back, massaging one direction and then the other direction. Fabulous. I'm going to do a little bit of oblique here, so side waist. So arms out to the side, dropping the knees 45 degrees to one side, and then in your mind you're doing the bell curve, so up and over, yeah? So you remember the bell curve in maths? Up and down. So as you exhale, knees don't actually physically come up all that much, but in your mind's eye, you're pulling upwards and then placing down. And you're doing a breath out, puffing out that strong candle, So pelvic floor and deep core muscles zipping upwards. And we're also adding in these obliques here. Keep your shoulders down, keep your shoulders away from your ears. Breathing out, breathing out, breathing out. Good, I'm just stop it there. Drop both knees to one side for a twist. Looking over the other shoulder. If your knees don't come down to the ground, just place a blanket or a pillow there. Something for your knees to relax onto. And split the knees up and over to the other side. Massaging. Good, come back into the center, ankle on top of knee, drawing knee in. So we're just getting into that glute, give it a bit of a stretch here. And then give yourself a rock from side to side. That massages over the sacrum. And then dropping down a little bit, bottom foot dropping down to the ground, just makes the stretch into that glute that bit stronger. Relax your jaw, relax your belly. Relaxing all of this upper area helps the lower body to relax as well. And then coming up and swapping sides, drawing that knee in, just a little bit of a rock here. Massaging and stretching into that gluteal area. Heading over to the right this time, right toe on the ground, makes it a bit of a deeper stretch. Fabulous. Rocking and rolling up and down the spine. Coming to sit. Up and over, lateral stretch. Breathing underneath the armpits. Up and over, lateral stretch to the other side. Good, come with that straight arm across the body, lock it into place with the other arm, bending it right at the forearm, and then pushing out with straight arm, pulling in with bent arm. Maybe take the head across so we get a scalene stretch just down here into the neck. And then opening the chest, fingertips out, looking up, shoulders dropping down. And the other side, locking into place. Oh, that feels good. And hands on shoulders, big circles backwards. Let those elbows lift and let those shoulders drop. Beautiful. Shoulders and head massaging around and around. I'm just going to do one last stretch for the inner thighs. So coming into this position, you want to be sitting so that your pubic bone is dropping down and your sitting bones are on the ground, but your tailbone feels like it's lifted slightly, as if you had a tail and it's just kind of laid out on the ground behind you. Stretching into these inner thigh muscles, toes active, pulling back behind you, towards you, sorry. Foot in. Start off with a nice lateral stretch. Up and over, and then take that hand, press down through the heel, push the floor away, whole body stretch. And then take the fingers right behind you so we get into these chest muscles. Look at the ground. Nice deep breath in, sigh the breath out, big circles. Take the hand down towards your hip and then up and behind you, massaging those rotator muscles around the shoulder joint, down and back. Foot behind you, zigzagging, and then allowing those hips to roll forward. So gluteal muscle switching on and then rolling forward, and then keeping that forward, coming into a twist. Looking over the shoulder, press a little bit firmly into that left knee, pushing down so we get into the quad here as well. This just kind of rinses the spine. Really nice just to give yourself a rinse out through the spine. Do it daily. Do it daily. I'm just going to take those knees from side to side again. Hip joints, we just want to keep these hip joints nice and healthy. Other foot in, other foot out. This is my right leg, toes towards me. Sending hand down, up and over. Always imagine I'm between two planes of glass. So you're not kind of flopping forward here. Nice and open through the sideways. This helps us to increase our lung capacity. So now you're breathing from down here, pulling the breath up, really getting those ribs
to move as you breathe. In, spreading them out, exhale, pulling them back in. And then let's take that hand, press it down to the ground, point your toes, push yourself up, mermaid stretch, whole body, hand maybe behind you slightly, getting into these pectoral muscles, looking at the ground, stretch up through middle fingers so you can feel that long line coming down. It's called the lung 1 meridian. And then a swish, and a swish, and a swish, and a swish, and coming down, zigzagging the feet, right glute, getting a little bit of activation as you roll your hip forward, just mobilizing. This goes into that psoas muscle. Fabulous if you've got sciatica. This is a good one to try. If you ever have sciatic pain, you just want to roll forward, adducting, and then pausing here, a little bit of a twist. And slowly coming back. Finishing with cobbler. So rock from side to side, feel those sitting bones, and then just allow yourself to drop forward. Head is heavy, gently pressing down with elbows into those inner thighs. Good, and then scooping up through the heart center. Placing that head just on top of your neck perfectly. Feel that lovely long spine. And that'll do, hey? Let's take a deep breath in. Release the breath. Big breath in, look upwards. Lift your eyebrows, breathe out. And then another deep double breath in. Hold the top of the breath. Excellent. Thanks for joining me. Namaste.